I was originally born in Mexico, migrated with my parents to Texas.
Mark Rios is just one of approximately 52,000 Minnesotans living at the heart of an ongoing policy debate.
We ended up in Minnesota, working in the soybean, sugar beets, and picking rock.
The key question for legislators: should Mark be allowed to vote?
This is the administrative office where I work with clienteles. My job is primarily working with veterans.
On the surface, Mark is a model citizen, a husband, a father, and thanks in part to his service in the Marines, he's a proud U.S. citizen.
When I got my citizenship, it solidified my whole meaning of why we came to the country, as far as I can vote.
Today, however, Mark can no longer vote. And for him, it's because of the way he billed his time while working a second job as a bilingual social worker and staff coordinator.
So I landed and was approved for the weekend counseling, Ramsey County Detox.
According to Mark, in an effort to streamline his bookkeeping, he was both rounding up and rounding down the time of his subcontractors, a practice he believed was legal.
The Metro County came back and said, there is a discrepancy in some invoicing. You see clients for 50 to 55 minutes, but you're billing us for an hour, and anything past $500 is considered a felony. So my charges were 2 felony counts, probation for 10 years. My probation began in 2015, and it goes till 2025.
The term Mark just used, probation, is where we jump back to the Capitol, because for many years now, there's been a group of lawmakers and advocates arguing that those on probation should be allowed to vote.
What we want to have happen is exactly what our neighbor does, North Dakota. We want to allow people who are not incarcerated to be able to vote.
Sarah Walker is the founder of the Minnesota Second Chance Coalition, which focuses on criminal justice issues.
We formed the Minnesota Second Chance Coalition precisely because we had seen that many issues that are intertwined with the criminal justice system did not get very much attention at the Capitol and weren't taken seriously.
The coalition's proposal to re-enfranchise people like Mark Rios first gained legislative attention in a very different political landscape.
2004. So 15 years ago.
Former state senator Linda Higgins was the first to introduce the bill in the Senate. But even with her own DFL party in control, she was not able to get the proposal out of committee.
It was a new concept. And what I've learned in all of my years in the legislature and actually when I was a county commissioner is that new concepts need some time to blossom.
At the same time, just down the hall, Keith Ellison, who was then a state representative, had slightly more luck in the Republican-controlled House, moving it through an initial hearing, but it still largely fizzled, which is different than saying it completely went away.
So since then, the bill has been introduced every year for the last 10 years, and unfortunately it hasn't made it through the finish line.
This year, 2019, the idea has gained support from Secretary of State Steve Simon, as he included it in his annual legislative priority list.
Minnesotans, I think, believe in second chances, and we believe in forgiveness. And restoring the right to vote at the end of a prison term will give real opportunities to those who have left prison behind to become full members of their communities.
The proposal was quickly given additional support by Minnesota's new governor, DFLer Tim Walz.
I fully support that move. I think the ability to come back and participate fully in the democracy is one of the keys to reintegration.
For those opposed to the idea, including former Secretary of State and current State Senator Mary KIFFMEYER, it's a matter of acknowledging that probation, even though it is served in the community, it's still intended to be a punitive measure, and the state constitution is clear that rights should only be restored when the full sentence is served.
We have that clear line. As soon as you start making exceptions, and then things get muddled, now where am I in this? I do believe that when you finish your time and you're off paper and you've completed that, you ought to be treated as if you didn't commit a crime.
This position, that voting rights should not be elevated above the other rights that are lost to a felony, is shared by today's Republican leadership.
When you get a 15-year sentence, just as an example, typically 2/3 of that is in prison and then 1/3 of that is probation. So as I look at it right now, that's still part of the penalty that you got. It was 15 years, but actually 5 of it was out on probation.
If the sentences are what Senator GAZELKA says, where you haven't completely paid your debt to society, even though you've been released from prison, you still have some debt to pay. At what point do we restore your rights? And it's not just that right, it's a right to own a firearm, it's a right to, whatever it is. We need to look at all of the rights and figure out at what point your rights are restored.
I don't believe that at the founding of our Minnesota State Constitution, this was the intent of our founders. What they said was that you could not vote until you had completed your sentence. But at that period of time, there was no system of probation or parole. So the only thing that meant was that actual real civil death of being incarcerated and away from the community in a prison.
For Mark Rios, these debates are simply academic. He's more focused on his sense of fairness and his conception of what it means to be an American.
I'm a homeowner, so I can't even vote on my, the board who does a county levy. I can't vote for my local sheriff. I can't vote for the mayor. I can't do anything for the next 10 years. And that was one of the things since I was young that I looked forward to. That's what made me part of my community.
Ultimately, this is a textbook example of a legislative proposal that essentially began in the political wilderness, but over the years it's grown into a serious policy debate.
It becomes a big, big blow when they say no longer able to vote.
I think there are other things that we can do to reform the criminal justice system other than this area. I think in some of the sentencing guidelines for nonviolent offenders, I think they're being treated way too harshly.
And as we've heard, it's a debate that's not going away anytime soon.
It is something we're going to be hearing about till the last day of session.